I, 27, have two stepsisters, 29 and 25. I'm the only sibling who has gotten married, and admittedly, my wedding was bigger than I would have liked had the decision been only mine. My stepsister had gotten our whole family involved during the planning period, and things were very awkward for me throughout. It seems to me that my stepsister was essentially trying to compete with my wedding. At every step of the planning process, my stepsister asked me how much I spent and intentionally tried to spend more than I did. When she asked me about the cost of our venue, I told her it was free, as using it was a wedding gift from my husband's best friend. But my stepsister wouldn't accept this and went through a lot of trouble trying to make a booking just to find out how much they charge on average. She ended up finding an even more expensive venue with a longer waiting list, having to delay her wedding to this year instead of last year. Despite going ahead with the wedding, she was forced to cut down on guest list by a lot, so everything seemed a little bit empty, and she ended up paying a lot of money for guests that couldn't even attend in the end. A week ago, my stepsister was complaining about how the virus ruined her wedding, and she was paying off bank loans for a day that was ruined. This was the first time I was hearing about her using loans to pay for her wedding, so I told her that was a bad decision on her part, and she should have had a smaller wedding. She got annoyed at me and made a sarcastic comment about how only I deserved a big wedding, and the rest of us peasants only deserved a small wedding. She ended up telling me she wanted a bigger and better wedding than mine, and she would have a redo when the virus was over. I told her she was weird for trying to top my wedding, and she deserved the debt for being so dumb. She was furious at me and yelled until I left the call. My parents and younger stepsister have all been badgering me to apologize, since I've set a trend for my wedding, and I should have been more considerate on how everyone else would feel. My stepdad has even suggested I offer to help her pay off some of the debt as a gesture of goodwill. Was I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your stepsister is an adult, and her decisions were her own. Absolutely don't pay for any of her debt for this. What a bizarre suggestion. Not the a-hole. She's focused more on topping you than spending within her means, and she's setting her marriage up for failure. Your stepdad is hilarious with his suggestion that you help pay for a wedding that isn't yours. They can be miserable playing keep up with the Joneses if they want. It has nothing to do with you. Not the a-hole. Don't apologize. Let your family be mad at it. It's her fault, not yours. She decided to top your wedding. She practically made her wedding day about topping yours instead of celebrating the fact that she's getting married. So tell her she should enjoy her debts and stop complaining to you about decisions and poor budgeting skills that she willingly made on her own. P.S. Tell your stepdad to duck off. It was his daughter's wedding. If anyone should show goodwill, it should be him. You've done nothing wrong. Don't let them badger you into feeling you have. For context, I'm 19 female, and my half-sister is 36 female. She has a partner, 39 male, as well as 3 kids, 14 female, 13 male, and 5 female. We've never been close due to our age gap, so growing up I had felt like an only child. My half-sister had always lived in her home whilst I always lived with our mother, who was a single parent. In September of last year, I left for my first year of university, but I practically dropped out when my mother was diagnosed with cancer and returned home. She passed in June. My mother did not leave a will, so it was decided that her life insurance, pensions, and money from the sale of her car would be split evenly between me and my sister. That all went according to plan, leaving only her apartment. The apartment was rented from a social housing association. It was decided that I would succeed the tenancy, because otherwise I would have had nowhere to stay during the summer. My sister reassured me at the beginning of my tenancy that everything in the apartment belonged to me, and that I could do whatever I saw fit with the furniture once I gave up the apartment and moved back to my university city. Side note, I grew up in that apartment, and all the furniture and appliances in the house, me and my mother accumulated together. My sister never lived there, nor contributed towards anything. Fast forward a bit. My sister asks if I could give her the fridge, washing machine, and my bedroom furniture, all brand new. I told her that I would be more than happy to let her take them if she gives me a hand with clearing my apartment out. I also asked her kindly if she could upload some photos of my furniture to Facebook Marketplace, because I didn't have Facebook. She agreed. Yesterday she texted me and told me that a family was interested. I told her to give them my contact details, and the family came to my house today and took everything, minus the brand new appliances, furniture that my sister wanted, paying me £280. I told my sister, and she demanded that I give her half of the money, lecturing me on the fact that we agreed to have everything. I told her no way, because the furniture I sold was mine. My sister ended up blowing up on me, telling me that I have lost all self-respect and that I must pay. I stayed firm, so she ended the conversation by telling me that she's disgusted with me, and that she couldn't believe that I would do this to her, and to not contact her again. Cut to the evening of the same day. Her partner texted me. He threatened me with court, boasting that nothing in the apartment was mine, and that everything actually belonged to them. He also spouted that they were going to call the police because by keeping the money, I was stealing from them. I told them that he was wrong, which made him even more aggressive. He threatened to come to the house and began insulting me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. If she never lived there and supposedly gave it to you, she has no say over it. If she wanted this stuff, she would have taken it by now. Hell, now keep the other stuff you promised her. They will pay more in court fees and for a lawyer than the money and stuff is worth. Teach them a lesson about greed. Not the a-hole. Money brings out the worst in people. Tell them to go try to fight for it, because they'll end up paying more in legal fees. Not the a-hole. Her boyfriend has absolutely nothing to do with this. He should mind his own business. Your sister sounds like a greedy person and probably is being advised by her boyfriend. She has no right to your bedroom furniture. I'd get some legal advice because her boyfriend sounds like a troublemaker. We recently got engaged a couple months back. I wanted to get my girlfriend the exact ring she wanted, so instead of surprising her, I took her to a jewelry store in the guys to window shop and see if I could maybe look at financing options. We looked at different diamonds, cuts, and bands to figure out what she likes. She wanted a 2-carat diamond, but it seemed way out of budget at $28,000 to $60,000 for a 2-carat with the cut, color, and clarity range she wanted. We were given 3 diamonds to look at 3 different carats and price range. She picked the medium size at 1.5 carat and a band with about 0.5 carat of diamonds on the band, which totaled up to around $16,000 plus tax. I surprised her by buying the ring on the spot, even though it's not what I thought she deserves. If I could, I would buy the most expensive one. I always thought I can trade the ring up when I have saved more money. I proposed a few months later after I bought the ring. A few months in, and she discloses to me that she settled for the ring I bought her because she was considering how I just bought a new car for us to use at that time, and how I'm the primary individual working, paying, and saving for our future, and all of our financial burden is on me, such as saving for a house, saving for a wedding, saving for her college, as she wants to go back to school, etc. I asked her why she doesn't like the ring, and she feels that she settled with it. Her response was she always wanted a 2-carat diamond, and always wanted an expensive ring in the event I die and she can't support our child. We don't have one. She can sell the ring. Even though I assured her I included her in my life insurance policy, which is worth way more than the ring. I am deeply hurt and offended that she feels the ring I bought her, which is a lot of money to me, is settling. Should I be grateful, as she said I should, that she only picked the medium-sized 1.5 carat because she was considering finances, or offended because she seems ungrateful to me? Have you heard of a prenup? 'Cause you're gonna need one. Red flags are waving high in this one. Dude, marinara flags everywhere. Your comments show how immature and materialistic she is. You will be in a world of hurt in a couple years. Prenup, premarital counseling, something. Because you want to take care of her, she stopped trying to grow up. A couple of my guy friends ended up marrying girls like that, and bad things happened, and they are scrimping to get by now because of alimony and child support. Think really, really hard. Not the a-hole. You need to send her to some financial literacy classes. Having a ring to sell is not a backup plan in the event of tragedy. If she wants a bigger ring, she can buy it herself. This is scary as hell, using a ring as life insurance policy instead of having actual money. She financially contributes nothing to this relationship, and you're not even married yet. And she's thinking about this kind of crap? Over an engagement ring. Run. I'd like to start this off by saying my wife, 23 female, and I, 23 male, have always been the black sheeps of our families, and are definitely not the favorite children on either side. My wife and I met in 7th grade, and we have now been married for 3 years, meaning we got married at 19, which my mother, 55 female, had a complete exponential breakdown over, but that's not super important. Recently, my wife has voiced her desire to go to Miami this summer to see her sister and brother-in-law, as well as their new baby. I was all for the idea. My wife and her sis have had some issues in the past, and I was super excited that she was the one wanting to see her, and it wasn't me forcing her to visit, like I usually end up doing. We had the conversation and phone call about the logistics and whatnot, and the travel plans as well as where we'll be staying is all done. I mentioned this in passing to my twin brother, who was actually the favorite child, and evidently, he passed this forward to my mom and pops, who we were planning to tell right before we left so that we could avoid a huge conflict over it. Yesterday morning, my mom called me crying on the phone, saying that I have betrayed her once again, and how she couldn't believe I could do this to her. I asked her what she could possibly be talking about, and she revealed to me that my sisters, she's the eldest child, and is probably even with my brother for favorite, baby showers on the first full day that we'd be in Miami after travel day 1 was over. Before my wife and I started booking things, we made sure that our trip wouldn't interfere with any of our siblings, and we were completely free to be gone from the 2nd through the 8th. I called my sis to see why she rescheduled, and she told me that Mom said she felt like having a shower in May was a bad idea, which makes absolutely no sense, but I don't even want to get into that. We talked, and I told her that I would stay back and come to her baby shower, but I knew my wife wouldn't, and that nobody was going to change my mind or her mind on that decision. My wife is still going to Miami, and I'm over the top excited for her. But my mother has been calling us nonstop, saying how rude it was that she'd choose her sister over mine when we're now a joint family. My mother hasn't met 2 out of 5 of my wife's siblings, simply because she doesn't care to. She called super late last night, going on another one of her tangents about disrespect, and I finally told her that she has no say in how my wife lives her life, and she should be thankful I'm even going to the baby shower. Apparently, this really made her sad, because my father called earlier this morning saying how out of line I was, but I truly don't think what I did was too bad. Am I the jerk here? Update. I'm going to address the top comments, questions below in different paragraphs. Why do I force my wife to see her family? This was really bad wording on my part. My wife is one of 7 children and only has one elder sibling that moved out when my wife was still pretty young. Due to the fact that my wife's parents were so young, along with them having so many kids, a lot of the childcare fell upon my wife. The kids, my wife and her siblings, don't talk to their parents anymore, but they do talk to their extended family. The entirety of the family lives in Poland. My wife and her siblings are the only ones who live in the States, and they pretty much stick out like sore thumbs because of it. I've known her family since I was 12, and they've become as much my family as they are hers. I'd also like to add that my wife and I raised the youngest 3, and they used to live with us, but decided to go back and live with their parents when Ava and I moved to the city from the suburbs. In my opinion, my wife should try to see her family when they come, especially because they've traveled so far, at least once. If she decides she doesn't want to see them, I usually recommend a few accommodations I could make, and if she still decides she doesn't want to see them, I leave it there, and I see them alone. Finally, the reason my wife doesn't like to see them is because she has been making excuses since we graduated as to why we can't move to Poland, and she doesn't want them trying to talk her into moving. I am going to Miami with my wife. I had a conversation with my wife at lunch, and we talked about me going low contact with the twin and no contact with my mom and pops. After hearing from everyone and reading on the Raised by a Narcissist thread, I feel like I just need to cut my parents off, and that's what I'll be doing. As for my brother, I just can't. I will be talking to him about my privacy and how I don't want him to be sharing my info as well as not sharing things that I know would be controversial. I know it seems stupid, but I just cannot cut my brother off. He's my twin and has been with me since quite literally the moment I was born. I talked to my sister earlier this evening, and we've decided that the 3 of us, my wife, myself, and her, will be going out to dinner next week, and that is when I will talk to her about my boundaries with Mom. I feel like it would be too much to do over the phone, and she's too sensitive when it comes to those things. In conclusion, I blocked my mom and pop's numbers. I'm going to be going to Miami with my wife. I'm not attending the baby shower, and I have boundaries set with my brother. Thank you to everyone who gave advice, even if it was harsh. Not the a-hole. Your mom is manipulative and deliberately changed the date of the shower so she could cry about it. Hey man, you gotta put boundaries up with your mom. She's narcissistic and clearly does not value your time, or your wife as a whole. Oh my god. You've been the black sheep and they treat you as such. Why bend backwards for them? Go to Miami, have fun. Baby showers are 1 in a million. It's their fault they moved the date and didn't communicate. The old duck around and find out, some might say. Choose your wife. She's your family, and she will never treat you the way they do. You're the a-hole for letting your mom manipulate you out of going on vacation with your wife. My ex-husband, 34 male, divorced and no contact since 2017, was forced to list me, 35 female, as a reference on an application to join a new police department as a significant relationship. We were together a total of 10 years, of which 5 were married. We had an amazing relationship until the last 6 months of our marriage. His behavior changed completely. One day he came home and said he didn't love me anymore and wanted a divorce. This came out of left field for me at the time. It shattered my world. We got through the divorce, and I picked up the pieces and put myself back together. Met an amazing man, 37 male, who was twice the man my ex-husband will ever be. A few weeks ago, I received a call from the police department my ex-husband has applied to, asking for a reference. I hesitated a bit and asked the woman on the other line if she was aware I was his ex-wife. She said yes, and that it would be beneficial for the department to get all sides, so I agreed. It was fairly standard questions for the most part. Then one caught me off guard. Would you trust him with your life? No. Hard no was my answer. She asked me to explain. I told her about a year after the divorce, I had lunch with a mutual friend of both my ex and I, who told me my ex-husband had been cheating on me the last 6 months of our marriage with his now girlfriend, who was also married when the affair started. This woman was not just a coworker, but in fact one of his superior officers at the time. The interviewer then asked if I had confronted him about this. I said no, because I hadn't spoken to him since the day at court where everything was finalized. And as far as I knew, he didn't know I knew of the affair. She thanked me for the honesty, and we ended the call. A few days after, my ex-husband started messaging me via text and social media, have blocked on everything at this point, telling me I cost him the job, and I was a selfish bee for not just lying so he could get on at a better department. I never responded to him, so his girlfriend started doing the same, also blocked with no response. With this reaction from the both of them, am I the a-hole here? Obviously not the a-hole. The last thing we need is more untrustworthy cops. Not the a-hole, and very glad this dude didn't end up becoming a cop. Not necessarily because he was a cheater, but because of how he's treating you after not getting the job. Like, be real. He really had no other significant relationships in his life he could have listed as a reference, besides his ex-wife with who he is not even in contact with. Not the a-hole. If he didn't want someone telling them he cheated, he shouldn't have cheated. My now ex-wife pulled the same crap and told me to lie to others about our split, and I laughed in her face and told her I was going to tell others the truth about what happened and let them decide what to think. Should have been nicer, and I wouldn't have to tell others you were a jerk.